Brown-Eyed Warrior by L.A.L. here on Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman with Anjali Kamat. Our subject for the hour, the controversy that is is increasingly raging, not only in this country, but around the world. Our guests are Talal Hamdani. She lost her son, Salman, on 9/11. He was one of the emergency responders. Rabbi Kula is with us. Rabbi Irwin Kula is president of National Center for Learning and Leadership. John Esposito teaches Islamic Studies at Georgetown University. And we're joined by the first Muslim elected to Congress, Keith Ellison. He's from Minnesota. Congressman Ellison, you wanted to jump in here.
Yeah, I wanted to allude to the point that you just made about the world audience. I mean, the world is watching this controversy. Everybody is sort of wondering what's going to happen. And, you know, I guess my question to your guests, and I'd like to hear your views as well if you can share them, what does the rest of the world think about this? What do people who want to have a recruiting script to make war on the U.S. Think about this controversy? What use do they make of it? When you hear some of these outrageous statements that American politicians and cultural leaders are making.
Well,
for example, Brian Fisher.
Go ahead, Brian Fisher.
Brian Fisher says there should be no more mosques built in America. Some of the outrageous things that Limbaugh and Gingrich have said, Palin. What does the rest of the world think about this? Last
month, Tennessee Lieutenant Governor Ron Ramsey questioned whether Islam is a religion at all and suggested the Constitution's protection of freedom of religion should not apply to Muslims. Ramsey made the comments while campaigning for the state's Republican gubernatorial primary race.
Now, I'm all about freedom of religion. I value the First Amendment as much as I value the Second Amendment, as much as I value the 10th Amendment, and on and on and on. But you cross the line when they start trying to bring Sharia law here in the states and in the United States. We're a law. We live under our Constitution, and they will be living under our Constitution. But it's scary if we get there. Now, you could even argue whether being a Muslim is actually a religion, or is it a nationality, way of life, or cult, whatever you want to call it. But sir, we do protect our religions, but at the same time, this is something that we are going to have to face.
That was Tennessee Lieutenant Governor Ron Ramsey. He is running for the governorship of Tennessee. Your response, Congressman, let me go to Professor Esposito.
Let me just make a point here following up on Keith's comment. The way this plays out overseas is that to our friends in the Muslim world, which are the vast majority of Muslims, people are stunned. And it feeds a concern about, as that has existed before, that there's a double standard. That is that, on the one hand, we're admired for our principles and our values. But on the other hand, there's always been a sense that we say we stand for democracy, we say we stand for pluralism, a freedom of religion. All of these things, as the Gallup World Poll shows, vast majorities of Muslims admire. But significant numbers of Muslims around the world believe that there's a double standard when it comes to how Muslims themselves are actually treated. On the other hand, it plays in to the extremists. The extremists wind up saying, in effect, see, at the end of the day, to be a Muslim is to be persecuted. There is a clash of civilizations. And I think that that's what's ironic. And it's underscored by something that you and others said earlier. The problem here is not just that you have some rural rednecks who are making comments. It's that you have people who hold responsible positions. I'm not even going to say that they're responsible people, but people who hold responsible positions in our society, whether it's politicians, whether it's so-called Christian ministers and others. And the fact that you could have, for example, the pastor of a church that only has 80 people who calls for an event like burning Qurans, and that could then become an international issue and get that kind of coverage, shows the depth of the problem that we face and the urgency about our need to face it.
Professor Esposito, this Islamophobia is not a new phenomenon. Can you take us back over the past decade, really, and talk about the sort of early waves of hate crimes that hit and the hate speech against Muslims?
Well, I think that when you look, for example, at particularly, at post 9/11, you have a wave of hate crimes, but ironically, post 9/11, you have an America that, if you look at polling, responded a lot better than it did after the first couple of years. And I think part of that reason things got much more negative was that while President Bush made a very good distinction between terrorists and Islam, at times the Bush administration played the terrorism card so much that it fed into an American population feeling unduly under siege. Not that we don't have to be concerned about terrorism, but unduly under siege. Then what you see over the years are problems of attacks on mosques, but more importantly, the fact that you have people like Representative Kaine and others, you have politicians who over the last decade had played this card, Rick Lazio and others. You have Christian right ministers, John Hagee, Franklin Graham, these ministers saying that not that terrorists are evil, but Islam is evil. And remember that Hagee and Rod Parsley were two ministers who McCain embraced. What people forget now when they look at, as we lead up to the elections, is that during the presidential elections, you could see the Islamophobia in the way in which people were trying to prove that that Obama was somehow a Muslim, as if that should discredit him. And indeed, Secretary Powell had to speak to that. And on the other hand, you had all the major Republican candidates